Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. It is Basketball Rewind, and I am joined by the people that always join me. Uh, Coach Roache, Beyond the Locker Room. Welcome. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing this evening? And yeah, let's start with that.
Doing okay tonight. Getting ready for basketball season.
Beyond?
Same here, man. I'm tired of seeing the preseason. I want to see some regular season games, man. I'm like over it.
Yes. On one hand, this preseason was interesting because there was a shorter preseason. You almost wish you got more, but then by the end of it, you're kind of like, I'm kind of ready for real action. We will talk about that at the end, but today on Basketball Rewind, we are mainly going to be talking about the thing that we haven't talked about, which is the Western Conference over unders. And we will see. I will say ahead again, and I saw a comment about this thanking me for mentioning. Ignore the math, people. We are not going to get the math always correct. So thank you. They said thank you because I think they were making a little bit of fun of Coach saying Coach said over on too many teams. So
Yeah, I saw that. That sounds about right. I'm not going to get the math. I'm not going to get the math right, but I will try to be mindful of that. But thank you to that person, actually.
Yes, but and especially for the Western Conference Finals, it's going to be very, very difficult. So, as a preview for this, I am going to look at the over/unders for each thing. I'm going to try to contextualize a little bit of the divisions, but again, league at parity, holy smokes, it is going to be tough to call. So, before we get into it, I want to just ask you guys: Can any team, I'm going to say, can any team in the West win 60 games? 60 games is a high mark, okay? So I'm going to ask kind of two questions in a row. So the first is 60 games, which last year no team won 60 games.
No, that won't
Coach?
that won't be the case.
Okay. And
Less too short.
57. Will anyone win 57 games?
I say no as well.
Okay. 55? This is as low as I'm going to go before we start.
Maybe.
Yeah, I could see maybe two, three teams max possibly get to 55, but that's still going to be a bit of a stretch, I think.
Okay. So last year, just so you know, the winningest team in the West was the Denver Nuggets. They had 53 wins, just for reference. So yeah, it's gonna be tough for them to get up there. I'm going to go in not quite that order, but in the order that it's kind of lined up in terms of the over unders, and then we'll just go from there. So the Nuggets 153 games last year. The over under, I'm just kind of taking an average of it, but it's around 51.5. Would you guys take the over or would you take the under on this and why? And you can gladly say the range that you see them. I might even refrain from ranges myself for this because this is going to be tough.
Um, I think they're gonna have the same records last season. I think I don't. I mean, Murray's gonna be pretty much going full bore from the beginning, which is good. But they lost some depth on some key guys after the championship. Um, so it's a bit of a mixed bag in this case here. And I think, to be honest with you, I think the first half of the season, they kind of snuck up on a lot of people. And I think also, too, because the rest of the West had a lot of people. The thing is with the West, a lot of the really, the teams that are the dangerous teams you think of have a lot older players. Therefore, they are not either playing or not playing at their full maximum at the time till later in the season. And I think that's something that helps a team like Denver, which is obviously a younger team overall. So yeah, I think they'll be around. I got them around 54 wins again, 53, 54 wins.
Coach?
I have them around maybe 55 to 56 wins, and I say that because I look at the division that they're in. They're with Minnesota, OKC, Utah, and Portland. Now, Denver last year was 10-6 in their division. I can see them being maybe like that 12-4, maybe a 13 and 3 possibly. Portland's definitely not going to be as good. Uh, Minnesota, Utah, and Oklahoma City. That's going to be my biggest question mark. But I could possibly see Denver being that 55, 56 win team for sure.
Okay, I mean, I'm definitely punching the over. I for this one, I think it's hard. I will, echo beyond sentiments. I'll go with 53 wins. I think it's just the easiest to predict. OKC, I think, in that division is going to be better than they were last year. Not that they were bad. I mean, we're not there yet, but they won 40 games. So only really, close to 500. And with Chet coming back, with Case and Wallace, also, who's going to play a role for them there. It may not be the biggest role, but it will be a role to shore up their point of attack defense. I think that they're going to have some tough times in those divisional games, a little bit more than last year. And also, I mean, Utah is I don't know what to expect from them. Because I think that they're sneakily a really deep team with some interesting talent as a collection wise. So, yeah, the next team.
Just one thing
Oh,
about this
yep.
conference we have to consider actually that I think when Coach mentioned something, it kind of just triggered something for me. There's a Wemby effect that we have to consider from last year. There's literally two teams that were not trying last year in the West. So we already know Wemby's on one of them now. So that's not four straight wins anymore. And even Houston, obviously, with the money they shelled out, they should be at least competitive. So, there's not like 8 wins sitting there for you like there was last season. So that's something to keep in mind with the Western Conference, because the Wemby sweepstakes made a lot of strange looking results in this case at times.
Definitely. Yeah, it's one of those things. Um, I want to say late April basketball is always really interesting in terms of like dissecting the game. It's hard to always dissect those wins. Um, just because there's it's like teams' fates have been decided. They're like, we're either hanging up the cleats, or, so to speak, or the shoes, or we're actually going for it, but we're still like gearing up and resting guys and stuff like that. So, definitely interesting. The next team on the docket is going to be the Suns. The Suns over under is 50.5. I guess, if I contextualize it a little bit, they did make a big trade or two. But also depth wise, they actually did all right with the secondary moves that they made. So they will be interesting. Bradley Beal has not played much in the preseason, so that's definitely going to be interesting. I have questions about them, but I will, I think that they're going to be a very interesting team to watch in the regular season. Especially since I don't know if they still fully have one person who you can consider is a more traditional point guard. So, with that being said, over under 50.5.
I'll jump in this one. I think I have them under. I don't think that this team, and I'm not wishing for ill will or ill health on anybody, but I'm just going with just the reputation of the players involved. It's hard for me to see if this team could stay upright for 82 games this season for a long enough period of time. You have at least 3 key guys in their rotation who are at this point in their career, you gotta say, are perpetually hurt. Durant, Beal, Nurkic. I find it hard to believe that all 3 of them are going to be able to stay and play at least 3/4 of their games this season. That combination, which means it's a more of a load on Booker. And we've already had our tax discussion when it comes to injuries already. It's going to be a lot on Booker's shoulders because he's the one guy that tends to be pretty healthy and he's their best player. And that's going to be tough for him. Yeah, for him to hold that weight if these guys get hurt. And I suspect these dudes are going to, somebody's going to get hurt for that group because sadly to say, that's just the way the last few years have been for a lot of those 3 players.
Yeah, I have them same as Beyond, probably under 50.5. I think it's just under for me. Like I could see them maybe winning 48, 49 games. Like he said, Durant's been hurt the last couple of years. Beal's been hurt a fair amount. Nurkic might be worse than Aiton defensively. Like this team is going might this team's going to give up 125 points a night probably, but they might score 130 because they have that kind of firepower with Durant, Beal, and Booker when they're healthy. And they did add some nice pieces in the Dame trade when they eventually got Nurkic and Nasir Little, Grayson Allen from Milwaukee. So they have some good pieces, but I just get really concerned about their defense, and that's why it's hard for me to put them over 50 wins.
Yeah, so I agree with both of you. I think they did address some of my concerns that I had. I was worried that they would be relying on KD to be their best defender in that lineup. I think that they can mix in Grayson Allen to kind of lessen that burden. They're still funny enough. They are actually still thin at center, and they got a guy who has not been a beacon of health to hold down the fort there. Obviously, I do think that he will fit well, Nurkic will, but in terms of um, his health is going to be paramount. It's going to be very important, and having I think it's Bol backing him up. I,
Ooh, ooh.
you're hope you're yeah you're hoping that for health. So
It
for
got
that
thin real quick. Sorry, I had to say it, man.
it will get thin really quick.
I can't help myself.
Between KD and Bol and so
Mm.
it's um again, I think they're a team that probably has enough to like mix and match guys to get them there, and get them there with home court advantage. But they're going to have to probably load manage a couple of these guys to ensure that they have the best chance possible. So yeah, I think after that, as I scroll through, the next is everyone's darling team, the Splash Bros,
Mm.
Warriors. So this is going to be an interesting one. They did get Chris Paul. Um, they don't have anyone who needs a helmet on in practice anymore. Um, and so Jordan Poole is gone. Draymond is re-upped. Clay is in discussions, and we will see. The Warriors are an interesting team, and it does sound like Chris Paul will be starting. Their over-under is set at 48.5. What do you guys think about that?
That to me, that seems a bit high. Um, Integrating Chris Paul is one thing. I mean, literally, I could slap the same assessment I had for Phoenix and put it on Golden State. You have some guys in this case are pretty brutal at this point. Um, Clay Thompson now has to actually carry probably a. I mean, technically, I guess Kuminga is going to take the minutes that were pool minutes to kind of help Clay out in this case to help with that role. But they're still going to depend a lot on Clay Thompson unless Kuminga has a real pop this season. Like he's the X factor for them. If he pops, like they hope he pops like a top 10 prospect, then the sky's the limit. But if he's going to just be like nothing wrong, but just kind of marginal growth, I don't think that's enough for me to move the meter from 48.5 because Draymond isn't getting any better at this stage is great. Curry's Curry. He's going to do his thing. No two ways about that. I'm not sure we're going to see any sort of degradation with his game. I mean, it seems like he seems to be getting better in some ways, at this stage of his career. But Chris Paul, man, I just said, what I just said with the Phoenix guys. Is there anyone the more the poster boy for breaking down as the season goes on to Chris Paul? And I don't think the minutes are going to save you. I think with him, it's just like he just reaches a certain point on the speedometer and it's going to start falling apart. That's just the way it is. He gets to a certain speed, X amount of games, and it is what it is, man. Even if he stays healthy enough, his production slows down when you start getting later in the season and definitely in the playoffs at this stage of his career. So, yeah, I got them below, maybe somewhere at 45 or so. Like in that range, just above the playing game. They might end up being like a 5 seed or something like that.
Coach?
Yeah, that's tough. I have them I think I have them about 48 wins. I know you said 48 and a half. I think they're just going to be around that, just under. They won 44 games last year. They had one of the worst road records in the NBA, but yeah, one of the best home records in the NBA. I think only Memphis and maybe Denver was better. I think another year of Kuminga playing more, and he wants to play more. I actually like some of their pickups. I like they picked up Dario Saric. They had to get a bit bigger. They can't just play Draymond at center when you're going up against some of the big centers in the West. It's just not going to work, especially with Draymond being older. Saric fits their offensive system perfect, in my opinion. Chris Paul has always been a starter. He's not going to, even if he might start, I don't see him playing starter minutes. I think that's going to be more beneficial for him in the end. And I think Golden State's going to be a bit better. I like what they've done. Now, there is some question marks certainly around the health of Draymond, Clay a little bit, Steph a little bit. Steph was out a fair amount last year as well. If these guys were a bit younger and there were no lingering health issues over the last couple of years, I would have them over 50 wins. That's how much I kind of do believe in this team. But I'm going to have them at about 48. That's just four more wins than they had last year. And I think they'll be a bit better on the road. Just my guess.
So I always differentiate, and people will hear me repeat this on this podcast quite a number of times. I differentiate regular season and playoffs. Playoffs, they're a very dangerous team. Regular season, I'm punching the under, mainly because I think that they just know who they are, and it's just about getting there. Like at this point, they're all 16 game players, right? And that's what matters more. Obviously, yes, the growth of Kaminga is going to be important, and some of the other guys like Moses Moody getting continued production out of him. But yeah, I do agree that Kaminga is probably your X factor there more than anyone else. I do like their pickups. Did they get Dwight Howard? I'm still trying to figure that out. So they didn't.
No.
Okay. Um, and the rookie that they drafted this year seems to be a productive member of that team. So yeah, I think that they're going to be an interesting team. The challenge is that they're in a division with someone that we already talked about, which is Phoenix, Sacramento, who we have yet to get to, who I think is going to be they're going to probably fall back this year, but still be good. They're also with the Lakers, and a lot of people are saying that the Lakers are going to be really good, and I agree that the Lakers are going to be really, really good this year. So there's a lot there. The other thing too, CP3 is today. By the time the playoffs roll around, between the first and the second round, he will turn 39. He's no what do they say, young spring chicken or whatever. I don't know why people use that term, but either way, he's getting on in age.
Yeah, like I would not start Chris Paul. I know they said that they're probably going to. I just think it's too small with Draymond at center. I just do. I would have Looney. I would start him and Draymond and Wiggins and Clay and Steph. And then like Chris Paul becomes in off the bench. He's still going to play a bunch of minutes, but how good would that be for Jonathan Kuminga to play with Chris Paul for his own development? Same with Moody, same with Sarge. Like I really could see Chris Paul just doing wonders with like a second unit in the NBA. So if it was me, I would not be starting him.
Well,
That's why I'm not coach.
yeah. Well, the other thing too is everyone thinks about okay, how we know how gifted offensive player Chris Paul is, but at this point now, when you look at that five son you just described, that's a pretty um, you shaky defensive unit that we're talking about there. I mean, they're asking Wiggins to do a lot of stuff with that five.
Oh yeah. That's
Right.
why I would have a guy like Looney in there at least. At least Looney knows his role.
Because Curry's always had issues in this case, when it comes to defense coverage. He's improved a bit, but he's still not. I won't consider him a plus defender. Clay with
Yep.
the injuries is now we cannot consider a plus defender at this stage of his career. Chris Paul, the same thing. And and then you talk about Draymond, still I would say a plus defender, but in the right scenario. I don't think Draymond in space is the same defender he was 3-4 years ago. I think he's actually better with bulkier post guys, where you could just kind of just go up there and just lock up like it's wrestling. But when he's actually got to be out in space, 18 feet, and he's out in deep water, you start seeing some holes in the game with him too. So like the only A+ defender to have that group is Wiggins. I don't know, man. Like to Coach's point, that's a roll of the dice by Steve Kerr.
Yeah, they are going to get killed on the defensive boards with that lineup. There's like who's the tallest guy? Draymond or Wiggins at like 6'7"? That's I don't know.
I think dribble
Don't
penetration is going to kill him too, man. Because any young boys might start running circles around them, man.
Yeah, the regular season matchup between them and the Raptors will be interesting because of the Raptors personnel and also with their recent style change-up. So that's actually something that I would be on the lookout for. And when people look at the schedule, mark that game down because it'll be very interesting. Definitely very interesting to see how that chess match goes down. Any other thoughts on the Warriors? I think the other thing is just having a really small two back court. I mean, I do agree that Curry is more of a two guard, but him and Chris Paul are both small.
That just looks like smells like trouble.
Yeah, and then I guess then you'd have Clay,
a small forward.
Wiggins.
Yeah, Wiggins is playing power forward.
Clay as small forward speed wise is fine because small forwards typically aren't going to be as fast as the guards. But Clay's not what he was, like you said. He's not an All NBA defender anymore. It puts a lot on Wiggins to be a 4. That's what I'll say. So it'll be interesting. I think they're a versatile team in a completely different way than the Raptors. I think they're an interesting team, but yeah, next couple teams, just so you know, will also be in the same division, the Pacific Division, and so we're gonna just go down the line. I didn't give a number. I'm gonna skip on all the Pacific Division teams. You could just assume it's around 45 games for most of them. It'll be a little bit more for this next team, which is the Lakers. Over under set at 47.5. The Lakers kind of revamped some of their roster. They made some moves. They made a couple of draft picks, which is, I think, really nice for a team that was basically a play-in team to make it, to the conference finals. And then still be able to retain a decent, draft pick, as well as, in my opinion, I haven't had a chance to see him play that much yet, but Maxwell Lewis, I think he's going to be good overall, with some time. I think they're a really interesting team. Thoughts on the Lakers?
Well, you threw out these possibilities when you gave different win totals. And I stick with what I say. I don't think anyone's winning over 55 games. But if there was a team that I could see winning 55 games, this is the team I could see winning 55 games. Because I'm not saying so. I think they're going to be above. I still think they're going to be like low 50s, 51, 52, somewhere around there. But there is a scenario I can see them winning 55, 56, though. And I think it really just comes down to, obviously health when it comes to the Lakers, and just how much a motor Anthony Davis has. Does he want it that bad? Because, I don't know how many. They literally pretty much, LeBron's pretty much given to a steak knife and everything. Say here it is on a silver platter. And he hasn't taken it. He's put some nice vegetables on the side with it and everything. Here you go. And he just refuses to take the meal, And the previous coach in this case here, obviously now coaches Phoenix now, try to do it in a nice subtle way. Darvin Ham's a bit more old school. And he's like, you know what? You can take your medicine. Buckley's here and take it. And you're going to play center. I don't really give a damn what you have to say. You're going to play center. And you're going to post up. I'll give you a couple of threes once in a while, but you're going to post up X amount of times a game, and you're going to like it. I think he's finally convinced them to some extent, even though in the preseason or early season, he was still gross about playing center. I'm like, dude, like get over it, man. At this stage of your career, you're a center in this NBA. And I don't know what's the offensive thing of playing center all of a sudden. I'm too old. I remember a time when center was the glamour position. You wanted to be a center. Now everybody's like, oh, Jesus, I'm center. Like, no, dude, you still get your numbers. You're still going to do the same things if you're 4 or 5. The 5 just helps in this case. In this case, because you can now put other good players at the 4 to help you out. But no. Instead of putting some stiff beside you at the 5, clogging up the lane. And so if he just buys in completely, they could go as high as 55. Now, as I said before, it's always the health with these guys because you never know what you can get with Anthony Davis, and that's what it comes down to too. I think this point in LeBron's career, it's funny. I've spoken now about 2 minutes about the Lakers. I've now only mentioned really LeBron only in a basketball sense now. So it shows you where my mind's at this point. But LeBron at this point here, like LeBron, I think he's probably good for about 60 games, 65, if you're lucky. And I think this is where Anthony Davis, man, if it ain't now, it's never, man. Like, it's not going to happen. And I think they also have some nice pieces around them, obviously. I think Reeves is going to take another jump. Hachimura, I think, is going to get now implementing their system more. He's going to show a lot more, too. And I like their draft picks, man. So we'll see.
Yep. Rob Pelinka's been my executive of the year since the trade deadline of last year, when he was able to trade Russ, and somehow he got back D'Angelo Russell and Vanderbilt, and they traded none for Rui Hachimura. He's done a magnificent job in terms of putting talent around LeBron. And even in this offseason, signing Gabe Vincent, just came off of being in the finals with the Heat, who was their best guard. And bringing in Taurean Prince, good role player. He's got length. He can shoot threes. It's the formula to put around LeBron, as it always has been. Jackson Hayes, giving him a new opportunity. I know at times the playing time and some things that were going on in New Orleans wasn't the best for him. This gives him a new opportunity. And I forgot Christian Wood. Christian Wood's a talented guy. I know I think being in LA will be good for him. I think being with LeBron, let me rephrase it, will be good for Christian Wood. So they've made some good moves, and like Beyond said, their draft picks, Jalen Hood, Shafino, Max Lewis. I know some of us we like their games in college and stuff like that. Jalen Hood's a big guard, and Max Lewis, he's a young prospect, but there's talent there. So the Lakers are a team I could see winning 50 games, but like Beyond said, it's going to depend on health. LeBron's going to be LeBron. I'm not worried about him. You hope to get 60 games out of him, but it's AD. This whole season depends on the health and the aggressiveness of Anthony Davis.
I think great points. I'm going to start off by talking about LeBron. Past couple games, or past couple years, going back to the 2020-2021 season, 45 games. Next year, 56. Next year, 55. Now, in the playoffs, he plays every game. I think he's going to take, now that he has a scoring title in hand, I think he's going to reduce, don't expect him to be, this might be the last year that he in fact, last year might have been the last year that he gets all NBA. I think there's, I don't know if he got it last year or not, but he did, so that's the last year. I do not see him playing 65 games. He is going to be 39 this season, which is incredible.
Yeah, there is one way he could play 65 games. That's if he reduces minutes playing 30 a night.
I could see that. I could see that.
His team, that should be something very possible.
So it's possible. His minutes have declined. They've gone up and down, but they've remained around 34, 35 in the regular season.
They've been up and down because it depends on where Anthony Davis is hurt, right? It always comes back to Anthony Davis, right?
Absolutely.
If Anthony Davis can stay upright for like 70 games, to your point, LeBron doesn't have to play that many minutes in this case here, and as well as the scoring. When that year LeBron scored 30-something a game, yep. He was scoring because there was first there was nothing else out there with him. It was like old man Carmelo and a bunch of other old dudes, and that was it. So it was like, I'll put up as many shots as I want to. But I mean, the year they won the championship, I think he only scored 25 that year. He led the league in assists.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
With 10.2.
It's 25 and 10. I think that's what you like to do from now on.
Yeah.
Shoot.
And his minutes were down during that year too. Although, to be fair, that bubble was made for LeBron because basically it's like just hardcore get out there and hoop for like X amount of weeks and you're done, right? And so I think all of it gears up for that. They're a dangerous team, to your point. I do like Austin Reeves. I do like guys other than LeBron on that team. I also like LeBron, to be honest. I know sometimes people say La Media or whatever. Look, the fact that he's this old and still like basically the best player on the Lakers, even though like really, like you say, it should be Anthony Davis. That says a lot.
Let's put it this way, man. If you had one series to win a championship right now in this league right now, who you take over LeBron James?
Very few players.
Yeah, exactly. You're being kind, but no one.
I know some people will argue this or that. I'm just gonna say very few players are in that discussion. You know, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Moving beyond LeBron, yeah, Anthony Davis is interesting. His 3-point attempts have decreased year over year over year, and I think it is a good thing. It's pulling him closer into the hoop. I watched a thing from Thinking Basketball. This is almost like a month ago, and it was no, this is actually in the playoffs, and it was analyzing just that, where it's like him getting into the mix, working on his post game because he actually does have a little bit of a post game. People should be working on that more, but that's a whole. We've discussed that already. And it leads to efficient offense. Like it's so it's a lot on Anthony Davis. I think he can do it. That's that. I mean, he is one of the great talents in this league. And I think you guys have covered the rest. I think that they're a pretty good defensive team. I'm not the biggest fan of D'Angelo Russell. I think that's why they got Gabe Vincent, to be fair. And they're also primed because they have the assets to make a move if they have to make a minor move to really move forward using those younger pieces to get there. So really interesting team. I'm gonna keep an eye out for them. I would punch the over, and I see them winning about 48 wins. So yeah, and I think if I go back, actually, I'll go even a little bit higher. I could see them getting up to 49. The over under is at 47.5. Yeah, I'm punching the over. There you go. So next team, we go down the hall, or actually, if I'm not mistaken, they actually have a new arena. So, or is it next year? It's
Next
this year, right?
yeah. The
Okay, so you're still going down the hall.
Yeah, the toilet still got installed just like this spring, man. So I don't think they're ready just yet, man.
Okay, so we're still going down the hall. And hey, guess what? It's still Laker Town, but that doesn't matter because there's a younger team in town.
Oh, the Buffalo Braves?
Yes, exactly.
The Los Angeles Clippers.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Easier a little bit,
So with that being said, 46 and a half over under. They haven't made the Harden trade as of the filming of this. I don't know if they're going to, but I don't know if they should personally. And I have reasons for that. And so before you guys give your take, I'm just going to say they need depth. And if they trade their depth to get Harden, who also has been, he was pretty decent last year, but still has, taken a step back in terms of his hamstrings and stuff like that and leg injuries. I worry about a trio of those three guys staying healthy enough for I'll ask, you know what? I'll wait for you guys. You know what? Actually, I'll do it now. Okay. What is the over under on games that like forget Harden for a second, that Kawhi and Paul George are going to play this year? If you were to set the line, what would to make money on that line? What each individual player, you could even go combined if you want. Because combined, I don't know if they can get up to 90 games combined.
Well,
I'll even be generous, 95 games.
I would say I am more bullish on Paul George playing over 60 games this year.
Okay.
I think he'll be all right in this case overall. Kawhi, who knows, man. Kawhi might be sitting beside me for half the time watching the games, man. I have no
Can I just, before Coach goes, I just want to give you the games played by Paul George since he's been on that franchise?
I can tell you. Yeah, go ahead. I know you're gonna go ahead. Tell me the games. I know.
48,
Uh-huh.
54,
Mhm.
31,
Right.
56.
56. Okay. Here's my rationale why I think Paul George is going to make it over 60 games in this case because of Russell Westbrook. The only reason why.
Okay.
He actually, because someone made a point the other day. This is if Harden were to get traded there. 2 points. I can't remember. I don't know, Nick Wright or someone. I think it might have been Nick Wright, but it was actually really funny. He said, if Harden was on that team in this case, that would be the greatest team in this case. It was 2017. And the second point you made was I don't know if it was him or his colleague in this case here that does the show where it said that you actually can have two types of teams, almost like in this case, like a baseball situation, where you have the starting pitchers, right, that eat up all the innings, and then you have the closers, right? So Harden and Westbrook could be like your starting pitchers in this case here. They eat up all the innings during the regular season, and then when you get the closing time, which is the playoffs, the other two could then join in. And I say that is actually a true point if they're able to pull out this deal. Because let's face it, you say what you want about Harden. Harden plays a lot of games usually.
He does.
Westbrook plays a lot of games. Like, there's no doubt the two of them in this case. They play a ton of games. And I think even just Westbrook alone now having him for a whole season to carry the load with Paul George will help Paul George out. Because like Paul George doing everything but cooking the breakfast when he had no one else with him. And that's what was breaking him down. I go back to tax again. Because he was never really injury plagued player, except for the injury he had in the Olympic trials. But really, besides that, he wasn't. He only started becoming an injury-plagued player when he started coming to Clippers. Why is that? I wonder why.
Okay, so, hey, that's a good point. You know what?
He was pretty much all he's healthy in Indiana. The time he played Oklahoma City, he was like top 3 MVP. Like the only time this rash has only come since he's on the Clippers. And I think it's specifically about one person and one person's only. That's it. And I think when you ask someone to do so many things, at some point their body can't take it because he's no spring chicken either in this case here. And I think you got to realize he's 30-something too. Can't be asking to do all these things that are supposed to be meant for two dudes to do. So I think Westbrook alone is what I think they're trying to do what LeBron had in mind for Westbrook in the other Los Angeles team. But LeBron's style Westbrook didn't work. But I think in this case, we know George and Westbrook can play together. And that can work. So we'll see.
Coach.
Yeah, I have Paul George 58 games and under. That's probably what he's going to play. Last year he played 56. I can see him playing a couple more games this year, kind of like what Beyond said, playing with Russ. And, you just think that they're going to be a bit more healthier, I guess, especially with the new rules that have come in about the 65 game for awards, I think it is. Kawhi, 55 and under. And that's probably me being kind as well.
55.
Yeah. So this is the last year of this experiment, I think, with them. I think Kawhi is up at the end of this year anyway. George, I'm not entirely sure.
They're paired in terms of their contracts and almost identical. They're a million apart.
Kawhi wants to play at home, so where else is he going to
go? I actually think that this is not the end because they're going into a new arena and they got to go, put butts in seats, and there's no Wemby for his team.
I remember in the 2018-2019 season, we had a lot of Clippers people at Raptor games. I can see them being back at a few more Raptor games this year with a couple of their players who have 1 year left on their deal.
Go crazy if that happens here.
Oh, I know they would, but I think this Clipper experiment is like we don't have them first in the West. This is a failed experiment, and it's too bad because they just been hurt, stuff like that. But they're only getting older, and you don't get healthier as you get older playing basketball, unless you're Grant Hill. Grant Hill kind of made a bit of a comeback when he was with Phoenix, but it usually doesn't work that way.
I didn't say they're over-unders, so depending, you're seeing anywhere between, I'll give the higher one. I'll be nice. 46.5 is their over-under. I'll just say mine personally right now. I'm actually punching the under. I think 44 games. It's a tough division. It's a really tough division.
I'm with you, under. I don't think I said which one I'm
under too, just because if Paul George assuming he plays 58 and Kawhi plays 55 or 50 and under, that's going to be tough to win that many games.
So now we go to a very interesting team. And broken news, Steven Adams is out. We're talking about the Grizzlies. Sometimes when it rains, it pours.
Who's had worse luck, them or the Pelicans? I mean, like seriously, like
Probably the Pelicans, to be fair, but it is close. It's not that far away. But yeah, their over under is set at 43.5. They did make some smart trades. Oh, I actually did not. That's a Freudian slip, actually. So, and they traded for Marcus Smart, of course. I just for fantasy, I accidentally came in late and it was auto drafting and I got Desmond Bain. I'm happy with that. He's definitely gonna feast for nice. So he's gonna feast for the first 20, 25 games or whatever of the season. But I also got Aldama too. But it's going to be different because usually for a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., he's really talented, but you want to, the purpose of Steven Adams is to protect the other guy's body. And so it's something where Jaren Jackson Jr. has always struggled with health, and I would be monitoring that as a barometer of where they can be after, let's say, 40 games, because it's hard to see where they are over the first 20. I will say one other thing. It's 43.5. I just really quickly want to look. So they are in a weird division again. So they won 51 games last year. They're in a division with the Pelicans, the Mavs, Houston, and San Antonio. Now, you said that San Antonio is not going to be as easy to win. Same with Houston. I think that the Mavs, regardless of what happens, they're going for it this year. Otherwise, they're in big trouble. So, with that being said, it's not as easy to win in that division this year and just pull ahead. I would actually yell at my Vegas odd maker or whoever my bookie is, and because I think 43 wins is around where I would put them. So I would punch the slight under.
I'm a little more bullish than you are on them. I think I'll go over, man. Maybe 45 to 46 wins. I think really the bet is the bet that Vegas or whoever the bookies are making is essentially what they're saying is they don't think in this case here, they don't think that Smart can handle the responsibilities of running this team without John Morant as well as Tyus could last season. That's essentially what they're saying, right? And I'm not sure that's quite the bet I would want to make. I mean, I think Smart's one of these guys that, and Bill Simmons always talks about the 10% that people just focus on. Smart's one of those guys. Smart's a hell of a player, man. Like if people that want to say that, it's like he's no chump in this case here. And I think he's got something to prove. He's a guy that plays well with a chip on his shoulder. I think that they're going to be a bit better and hold the fort down until you know who comes back. The question I would have to ask is, when is Clark coming back? Because to me, he's actually more important at this point.
Yeah, that's the other. See, this is the thing. I'm focusing more on their front court, right? Like I'm like, because Clark might be out until at least January, February.
See, that's the injury that still makes me a little nervous because it gets real thin behind Triple J. But I still feel they have enough there to kind of they say what you want. They played well without Ja for a while.
And he's not the best rebounder either.
No. All I'm saying is this is not their first rodeo playing without Ja. So I think they'll hold the fort down, and I think they'll be good enough to get over 43.5. That's what it's
okay.
They reached the 51 last year, but I think they'll be in the mid-40s.
Okay, and Coach?
It's hard to believe because they won 51 games last year, and now their over-under is 43.5. For one, it shows you the strength of the West. Two, this is kind of relates to the recent news of Steven Adams being out for the year, because that was the cover for Jaren Jackson Jr., more or less. You mentioned, Kenyon, about how this guy can be a bit injury prone. Look, they're not going to be very big with Adams out. I'm looking at their roster. Like Reese's guy Aldama is their tallest guy, listed at 7 foot, and he is 215 pounds. So Tillman is probably going to have to play a
He's
lot of
like
center,
Goku.
and he's 6'7". Brandon Clark, like Beyond said, it's going to be interesting. He's listed at 6'8". I'm not really seeing too much of a what's the word I'm looking for? A loss at the guard spot with Ja, because Marcus Smart, like Beyond said, he's really good. He'll play a different style than Ja. Like he won't be as jump out at the gym, that kind of thing. But he's going to defend and make some jump shots and bring an element of structure to a team. Just that's different than Ja. That's all. So, but my man Gigi, he's going to be showing people this year how good he is at 18 years old.
He
No,
gets a run now, coach, man, with all this front court deficiencies. He might get some run.
Hey, he
well,
came in. He came in 300 pounds. He's ready to go.
No way.
Yeah.
Gigi.
Oh, sorry. I mean Kenny Lofton. Sorry.
Sorry, man.
I'm already thinking of Kenny. I just had that picture in my head.
Well, he gets a run. He played last year for them. So
Oh yeah, he's good. He's good. He's got some game. They call him Snack Randolph. So.
Yes. And
it's good.
yeah, no, I kind of what Beyond said, probably that mid 40s at best. It's too bad what happened to them. I liked their team last year, and Darko coming from there, helping with a lot of these guys' development as well. But I expect Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bain to have some big years, assuming that they're both going to be healthy.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I agree with you guys. I'm sticking with my number of 43, mainly because of the front court depth. It's tough. And so we will see what happens. You never know. I do think that they are poised to potentially try to make a trade. And there are people that are available. Clint Capella may still be out there. There's some other squads as well that might be looking to offload a center. So it'll be interesting to see. But that is that. On to the next one, the T-Wolves, Timberwolves, Chris Finch. Man, another mutiny man. Of course. Unfortunately, Jalen's brother plays for that team and busted up his own hand right before a play-in game, if I'm not mistaken. Over under 46.5 is their highest over under. I'm gonna wait for others to go for this one, but it's going to be an interesting one. They are in a division that I think is going to be more difficult, and that is the same as the Denver Nuggets. Obviously the Jazz, the Thunder. They won 42 games last year.
I like that for them.
Yep.
I like that 46. I think it's 46 and a half. Yep. I like the starting lineup of this team. I know it's clunky a little bit with Gobert and Towns, but a big front court. Jaden McDaniels is the guy who can really defend, versatile. I think he's going to have a big jump this year as well. If Towns can stay healthy, Ant-Man, he's going to be a top maybe 15, 12 player in the league this year. Mike Conley, savvy vet, knows his role. And then you kind of bring in Naz Reid, who played quite a bit last year until he got hurt, and he's doing quite well. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I think we're all high on. I think there's some pieces here that I actually do like. There's enough shooting. They get size. McDaniels is definitely their best defender. Gobert is an elite rim protector, but he's not going to go out and guard people at the 3-point line. Towns, we know, was not very good at that. So they're going to be an interesting team, but I do think if they can stay healthy and put the pieces together the way that I think they can, I could see them being that 46-45 win team for sure.
Man, I've never felt, of all the teams you told me to pick so far, I have no doubt under. I don't like how these players fit together or don't fit together in this case here. I mean, I think there's a scenario where it could get ugly real fast with this team. And if you have a talent like Anthony Edwards and you're the ownership, like Alex Rodriguez and those guys, you might want to start looking around for some other help in this case here when it comes to coaching and stuff like that, as well as some of the personnel on this team. Um, like Cat in this case, like I mean, when you have rumors already of your second best player potentially get traded, like about a week before the season's about to start, it really doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about your chances of being a productive team this year. And they've always had some I'll put it this way, some combustible personalities. I'll put it that way. So when the going gets tough, they ain't really the ones say the tough get going for the most part with this bunch. So yeah, give me under on this, man. I'll take that, man. Twice on Sundays, man. I got no problem putting that down.
Do you have a approximate range? If not, that's fine because it's like at this point
I
there's
think,
like
I
a
think
lot.
win 40 games, man.
Yeah.
Around there. Yeah.
I'm a bit more optimistic than you, but I'm still punching under. I have them around 41, 42 games.
You get a night in this case, someone decides to rest one of their guys, and you get the one game. Okay.
Exactly. So we're basically at the same point. I think in their division, I expect their division to be better, like I said. And so for that reason, it's like I can't, if they won 42 games last year, I don't see them suddenly winning 4 more games this year. I do think that they have talent. It's an odd collection of talent, but I do think they do have talent. So it'll be interesting to see how they fit. Moving on to the next team. So this team, we're going to go back to the Pacific Division. We're going to go with the Kings, 44 and a half. And I think that the Kings last year, they really, with that Princeton offense, I wouldn't say that they punched above their weight, but I think that they caught a lot of teams by surprise, and they did a really good job. Didn't really make many major changes this offseason. I don't think that they needed to. There's one that I think that I would suggest. Not going to suggest it here because I don't want people to freak out. But what I will say is you hope that at the very bare minimum, when it comes to playoff time, a guy like Sabonis is able to hit a 15-foot jumper or 18-foot jumper comfortably and confidently. I think that could make a big difference for them. Until that happens, the ceiling is the ceiling. It is what it is. So I think that they'll be really good regular season. I think that they're going to try to win. Again, 44 and a half wins. I think I would I'd punch the slight under because it's at half. I'd have them 43, 44 wins. That's kind of where I have them. Any of you want to go?
I got them going up. Not much. I think maybe like 47, 48 wins. I think I agree that I think they caught some teams off guard. That's why I have them a little lower than I think they ended up winning. How many? 50 they won last year?
48.
48? Okay, so they're I have them about the same. I think they have a continuity. I think Fox is now kind of his game's gone to another level. And I think that has to be accounted for a little bit. I also think that, they just have a young team. And I think when you're in the regular season and you have a really good young team, you could win a lot of games because these old boys can't stick with you in this case on a night basis. So I think for now alone, on just pure attrition, they'll be all right. I think they'll get the 48 again or 47. So over.
I have them slightly under, like you, Kenyon, maybe at about 42 wins. I know it's a bit of a drop off from last year. I just felt that Sabonis got exposed so much in the playoffs that he couldn't hit the jumper. They're already a small team to begin with, and the West not just get deeper in terms of the talent depth, but the West is big. There are a lot of big guys in the West. And I just feel that they don't have that kind of depth. I know they added JaVale McGee, but this isn't JaVale McGee 10 years ago. And I just kind of question, with the West getting so much better, if teams will be more ready for the Sacramento team this year. Because I think they kind of did catch people by surprise a little bit. Not to say they're not legit, but I think teams are going to be more ready for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Sabonis thing is an interesting one because that was just such a glaring issue. It was almost it's funny, the team that beat them basically ran to the same problem with their big men the next, in the conference finals and stuff like that. So it will be interesting. or sorry, not was it conference? No, conference semifinals. This is the next round. With that being said, yeah, I mean, we just move on, we zip along, we go down to the next one where we have a bunch of Canadians who brought home some hardware to Oklahoma City, and it was funny because I don't know if you saw their media, whatever, when for social media, and the guy was asking him like, "Do you know this like special park that's named after a fish?" And all of them, but both of them were basically, "I don't know, I'm Canadian." So shout out to Lou Dort, shout out to Shay. With that being said, we're going to be talking about the Thunder. Over under set at 43 and a half. Very interesting. I'm going to punch the over for this one, and I'm going to say I think that they can get 45 wins. I'll add that they have Chet back this year. So,
yeah. I think they might. They could be kind of like this year's Sacramento. I think they're going to be over as well too, and they could be they could be up to 47 wins or something like that. I think so I like them a lot. There's always injuries involved when it comes to Shea, but I mean if he seems to be stabilized from a health standpoint, knock on wood. But the Chet factor is interesting because I mean I've never been a Chet guy, so I'm curious to see how this all plays out with Chet, and curious to see how they play him. If they're actually playing him as a 5, which would be interesting because I think they kind of been playing him as a 5 in summer league, which I found interesting. Like, okay, so we'll see. But they're one of those teams, definitely gonna be one of those league pass type of teams that I'll be checking in on.
Yeah, like I'm excited for them certainly moving forward. I have them, I think you said 43 and a half. I could see them at 43, 44 wins. I think they'll be a bit better. Certainly you have a talent like Chet. Jalen Williams had a really good year last year. I suspect he'll continue to have more growth and develop. My only concern about this team is they are thin up front. And some of these other teams in the West are a bit more bulky. So when they run into teams like the Clippers or Phoenix, and some of these other Western Conference teams, that could be a bit of a hindrance to them. And of course, with Shea and his bit of an injury history, as great as he is, I think he's going to be a top 10 player in the league this year. I think growth, but not, I don't know if I could put them over 47 or 48 wins. So I think 43, 44 wins.
I mean, to add to that, Poku in September was announced to be out for another 6 weeks with a sprained ankle. That was like literally end of September. So, yeah, I mean, I think the nickname for their front court was the Thin Towers, which was amazing, yes. A great name. But yeah, I will say this, and we haven't gotten to the team yet, but there's definitely like a budding rivalry in the West between Chet as well as Wemby. Both are very talented. I will say Chet now compared to when he first was here and we saw him in summer league and stuff like that about a year ago, his footwork is a lot better. He used to run up and down the court in ways that I'm like, he's getting his feet, tied like a pretzel. It was pretty bad. And so he's a lot better now, a lot more nimble. You knew he could shoot, you knew he could hoop, but it was more like for guys where they come in wearing the pads on their knees. You definitely want to see them have more body control, and I saw that. So I think he's going to be the X factor. Like I said, a 40. Yeah, you know what? I'll even go. I think I said 45. I'll even go higher. I'll go 46. I agree. They could they could get as high as 47. They're a very sneaky team.
I think I just simplify. Sometimes I think maybe sometimes we all kind of get caught up in analysis sometimes, and especially the sport of basketball. Sometimes simply is like how good is your guy versus how good is their guy. And right now, SDA right now, if he's playing
a pretty good dude.
That's what I'm saying. If he's arguably one of the 5 best players in the world. And if he plays like one of the 5 best players in the world, all the other stuff we talk about, Poku and Chet and all that don't really matter if you got one of the 5 best players in the world.
Give him the ball. Yeah.
Right. And I think that sometimes I think, you know what? Yeah, really, that's really what we should focus on. The summer he had, we've seen this happen with other players when they have a summer through an Olympics or something like that. and it kind of takes him to another level. I think we might be on the verge of seeing that with him.
Yeah, and I think that especially the fact that he was on the Olympics with his friend,
Mm-hmm.
um, who is his teammate. I think both of those might be poised to come in like, they tasted a little bit of the glory and they've wanted that, and like I think that they're coming in hungry. So, really good stuff. He's good at setting the tone. Smooth player, smooth attitude, smooth operator. We move to the next one. Pelicans. Pelicans are very interesting. They had a very eventful summer from a social media standpoint.
Their logo should be like the red cross, man. That's what their logo should be right now, man. Like the red cross on it.
The Red Cross, yeah, either that or like a food logo,
Right. That's right.
like Uber Eats or something. At, at this point, we did see a little bit of Zion in preseason. He looked spry. Looks like he's maybe he all those sodas in the social media posts. Maybe it was diet sodas. So kudos to him. Sorry.
Pretty swell.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And before we continue, 43.5 is their over under. They have had bad injury luck after bad injury luck after bad injury luck, and it's not just Zion, it's also Brandon Ingram, which goes back to the injury discussion. People go check out that podcast, by the way. Good show. So who wants to go first? Who wants to tackle the Pelicans? Oh, they also, I should add two other things. I forgot to say for some of these, but for the Pelicans, I won't. 42 wins is what they had, and as well as they drafted Jordan Hawkins.
Yeah. I have them under 43. I think with Trey Murphy being out to start the year, Zion, I mean, it's the whole Kawhi situation. If you get 50 games, great. Ingram was hurt a lot last year, and I know this because I had him in fantasy, so I was quite disappointed. And yeah, the West just being better as is, I get them under 43. I think you said 43 wins. Is that right?
Yeah.
43.5, yep.
Yeah. So I have them punching under that.
It's pretty sad because I think from a talent standpoint, Zion's as good as what we just mentioned with SGA.
Yeah.
Make, in this case, offense, so you can make an argument even better. Because he puts up some historical like numbers when he's healthy. But the fact is, he's never healthy. I can't trust that body, man. And it's a shame to say so because I think if he plays like 70 games, you could say he's that good, he could carry them, get over 43.5. But I don't think he can stick around long enough, sadly to say. And Ingram's not much better. So I'm just at the point right now where it's like, yeah, give me the under, man, because obviously my man, the third right now, is out for the season. It looks like, they keep on losing guys, and I'm just sitting here going like, yeah, and their top two guys are always hurt, man. So like, I'm sadly, I think it's going to cost some people their jobs by the time this season's done. That's going to be a shame because I think they got a pretty good coach, but but unfortunately the roster's not helping. And I think in this case, my man from Cleveland, in this case, probably going to regret not making some trades when he could have. And I think it's going to come back to bite them. So yeah, give me the under for New Orleans. I say they make barely. If they make 40 games, I say they get somewhere 38 to 40 games at best.
Yep. Coach, any more thoughts?
Yeah, kind of just what Beyond said. I'm just looking at Zion's stats too. Like last year, he averaged 26 points, like 7 rebounds, and I think it was almost 5 assists, which is really good numbers. And shot 61% from the field. At those numbers, that's unreal.
That's
when he played at 6'5", and to do what he's doing, it's too bad this guy can't stay healthy because he is an unbelievable talent.
Oh, and he's a 37% shooter from three too.
He's actually improved in his three that people don't realize.
Yes, yeah. It's I mean, it's he doesn't shoot it at like a high volume, but like it seems like he's got a cannon. What I will say is actually I'm gonna a bit of trivia here. approximately what percentage of games has he played off the top of your
On
top of the
average,
dome? Eligible games
what is how many
for his
games
entire career.
his entire career? Oh, I think I saw this the other day, a couple weeks ago. I think he's played like less than 100.
Does he play like 35% of his games?
Yeah. So it is more than 100. I'll say that. Um, and yeah, you spoiled it. It's around 35% of his
Oh, I'm
games.
just guessing. I'm just
Yeah,
guessing. I didn't
it's like between 30 to 35. I calculated it the other day. I don't have the number exactly on my head, but yeah, it's bad. But he's talented. Like, oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
but there's the issue because even if you get uptake, you say he plays 60% of the games this year. That
Yeah.
still might be enough to get to the 43 that we're talking about, 44 wins.
Yeah, I remember people saying like we should go trade for him like a while back, and I was like, I mean, you need to like for a guy like him, you need to have your team so good that without him, you can just like have him for the last 20 games of the season in the playoffs kind of a thing. Because that's basically it. Like last year, it's 29 games. First year that he played, 24 games. The most he's ever played is 61. That was 1 year, and then the next year he was out with the entire year with a foot injury.
Here's the thing with him too is like this shows you how fleeting the NBA is. Not just necessarily NBA sports period, but since we're talking about basketball, it's only about 4 years ago where he was must see TV. He was the Wemby.
Yep.
It was like literally, it was like when his first game came, he had like a 17-0 run or whatever it was by himself.
Yep.
It was making it on CNN the next day, his debut. It was like crazy. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, where are we watching? And now here we are now 4 years later, and you're hoping you can play half the season. And you can do that good year.
It's pretty sad, actually.
Yeah.
And we remember, well, I think you guys remember when the Raptors went to New Orleans last year at the very beginning of the season, and Zion carved us up. We had no answer for him. OG, it was just like OG was a piece of paper trying to guard him, and
Yeah.
Zion was just bulldozing his way
Made
to the
him look
rim.
like a rag doll, like a
Pretty much,
child.
we couldn't do anything with him, and OG is one of the top defenders in the game, and we couldn't do anything physically with Zion.
It would have been nice if we had Sarah to actually protect the rim and then on the game like that. But hey,
That would have been nice too at the time.
Yeah. Well,
get like personal best rebounding numbers on us. Like, hey,
yes. So
Yeah, that Vision 6'9" doesn't work with Zion.
no,
No.
does JV. He
No.
just like playing volleyball with himself.
it was that in the Steven Adams game where Steven Adams had literally
Yeah.
like two dudes on his armpit and like grabbed a rebound and like it was like it was embarrassing.
Men versus boys, man.
Yes. He like picked people up just to oh sorry fella. With that being said, I'll just say where I have them or coach. I'm guessing from the sounds of it,
Sorry. No.
you're fairly pessimistic.
But yeah, no, just you said.
Yeah, to think for a second. Yeah, no. Thought about being nice, but no. So yeah, I think we're all under. I'll just say I see them 39, 40. Look, people, it's health. I'm sorry, but like if half your roster's in the hospital half the time, or in a coma that's related to food, it is what it is. But New Orleans is apparently a really fun place. One of my best friends, shout out to him, was there 2 weeks ago and it was telling me, and he's just like, I understand, Zion.
Jambalaya is really good.
Yeah, the moment you got drafted, that was the thing. It's like, boy, this is a bad combination. Bad combination.
With that being said, we move on to the Mavericks. Sorry, 44.5 wins is where we set them. I actually punch on the under, but just barely. I have them at 44, which is I mean that's I think that's fair. If I remember correctly, and I'm just gonna pull it up really quickly. Again, I think we went over a couple teams that were in their division, if I'm not mistaken. So that's gonna be a very interesting division. That like I said, it's gonna be tough to break away from that division. It's the Memphis Grizzlies division. So I think that the challenge is that they don't have two teams that they can just roll over like before. But they're still, one of the top two teams in that division for sure. Or I shouldn't say still. Now they're back at that. So 44 wins, I think, is relatively fair. Again, people ignore the math. But yeah.
Oh man, as the resident Dallas Mavericks fan,
Yeah, it's your team, man.
I am so torn about this. It's not even funny. Is this a true heart versus mind situation? My heart tells me in this case here, based on what I've seen in the offseason, I like what they've done. I like the roster overall. Probably my favorite roster I've seen in a long time with Mavericks. And my heart's telling me it should be over. And
they
over
had 38 wins last year, I think.
Yeah. And you're saying you have them at what, 43.5 right now?
44 and a half. I punched you under with 44.
And I'm open to thinking of them going as high as like 47, 48 wins. But then there's the who factor. And I just know I'm sorry, man. My mind is telling me, you know what, I've been here before. I know what this looks like. And I'm sorry, man. I can't do it, man. I can't. I'll split the difference. I'll say they get 45 wins, barely get over it. And it's gonna be a tumultuous 45, but we might scratch at 45. This on purely the greatness of Luka and some more depth. It's about the only thing that's saving us. But man, it's not gonna be pretty, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I didn't totally like insult you with my 44 and under.
No, because
Okay.
that's the tension. Because you look at the roster and you're saying, okay, I like what I see here. I saw Young Lively yesterday looking springy and nice. It's like, okay, I think Matt's gonna have something to say before the year's out. All right. We still got my man Maxey in here doing his thing. We still got, in this case, we can maybe get the corpse of Hardaway to do something. We got some things going on here.
Josh Green's pretty nice.
My man Josh Green. Exactly.
You got some nice pieces.
Right? Like, okay, we got something here. But
and you guys picked up another center recently too.
Well, we got one name from Boston, Williams. So we got
Williams and Rashawn Holmes, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got some guys that can play a little defense and block shots and stuff. I'm like, to kind of help out Luka. I'm sitting there, okay, this looks like a logically makes sense. I see what you're seeing, Nico. I see what you're doing. But then I got to deal with the other side of the ledger. With a player in this case that needs to always be detonating himself and self-imploding at some point during the season. And that factor needs to come in at some point. And I don't know when it's going to show up, but I know it's going to show up. And I got to keep that in mind too. And that's the reason why I got to put him at 45. It hurts me to say so, because purely on black and white, they should be a better team than that. But I got to deal with the other factor. And I ain't put it all on him, because let's face it, man, my mercurial superstar, the other one, he ain't no picnic either when he's ready, man. So Coach, man, what are you saying here about my Mavericks?
I love the selection of Lively for them, because I think he's the second coming of Tyson Chandler for this era of basketball. He might be able to stretch the floor a little bit. Like, I wouldn't want him dribbling to the hoop, but being like a set 3-point shooter and just protecting the rim, being versatile, mobile on defense, he was a great pickup for them for Luka. And like you said about Omax as well, he's going to be one of those young 3-and-D players, athletic, going to be able to defend. I can see the defense of the Dallas Mavericks being better next year overall. And then there's the other side of this team, like you stated. Look, if said player is bought in and he is going to play, it makes them a better team. So I got to have them at about that 44 wins as well. They were 2-8 the last 10 games of the year, and they ended up with 38 wins. So I can see them reaching that 43, 44 win mark. The West being the way that it is too. I know I keep saying this, but this is the conference in the NBA by far.
Just on your Lively point, the only thing is he plays for Duke. And I say so in this case, you're not just a Tar Heels fan, which of course I say that from that's natural instinct. But just from a pure basketball standpoint, sorry, man. Sorry, Dukies, I'm sorry, man. You all need to get some ground provisions for these fellas. Some Edo, I don't know, where is some soup and some pigtail or something in it, man. Something to get some bones in these fellas, because I don't know what is it with Duke guys. but they seem to get hurt after every. They seem to be hurt for like half a season every time they come out for the draft. The only one that seems to be healthy, and maybe because he's eating the ground provision because he's of Jamaican descent, is RJ. Everybody else in this case here is be getting hurt every 5 seconds. Like, I don't know. So I pray that Lively stays healthy, but Duke history tells me that ain't going to be a good proposition. So we'll see. I hope the best and well health for the young man, but there's a history with Duke and players when it comes to health, man. I don't get it. I don't.
Okay, so we have 3 teams left, and just so people know, this is a longer one. People do seem to actually like the over/under shows, but I do understand.
It's like top 10 list, man. It never fails, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, but don't worry, people. In general,
you the favorite cat, so you stop the TV. It's like, well, let me see who's number one. The cat.
Yes. So with that being said, we have the Jazz, the Rockets. We're gonna kind of go through those 2 and then clump up the other 2 after, just to kind of go through it. The Jazz, 35.5. The Rockets, 32.5. And so last year, the Jazz actually were a surprise team, almost made the play-in, if I'm not mistaken. And they, there we go, 37 wins was their win total last year. And then the Houston Rockets, they wanted to tank, and they got 22 wins. So again, 35.5 over under for the Jazz, 32.5 for the Rockets. Really quickly on the Jazz, a couple more things. Really like their draft. Did a really good job at the draft. Got 3 really good draft picks. Taylor Hendricks hasn't really done much thus far, but that's okay. You have 3 draft picks. Like you can mix and match and play around until your heart's content. Keontae George seems to be a real hooper. His dad actually used to play professionally in France. Shout out to them. For Utah, Salt Lake, I'm going to punch the over, but it's not going to be by a ton. I think that they're going to get to 39 wins, 38 wins or something like that. For Houston, on the other hand, I see them as a play-in team. I think that they're going to get 40 wins. Yeah. At times, it's going to be a struggle. But I really do think I like Jalen Green a lot. I think he's
him too. How many wins they had last year?
22.
Okay, and they're having them at 28 this year for the over under 28.5.
No. Their over under is 32.5. So I think that I'm sneaking them into the bottom of the play-in at 40 wins.
Okay, I'm just gonna make this quick here because I don't want the deal. There's been a long episode in this case here. I'm sticking around for this, but we don't have that much heavy detail for these 2 teams. Okay, Utah 37-38 wins just like last year, and it might even be lower depending on what mood Danny Ainge is in.
True, that's true. Yeah. Good point on Utah.
Yeah, ready to red button because with him that's always possible. But yes. I like their talent. Moving to the other team. Look, they're going to be 32.5. Sorry, man. That's below. That's low. I'm sorry. I love Jalen Green. I think he's going to be a better
You think that they're going to lose more than 32 games? I think they're going to
improve from what you had 18 wins they had last year. I think they're going to be like high 20s. I think
they won 22 games last year.
22? Yeah, I think they might get 29 or 30 games this year.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm believing in the power of Dillon Brooks too much.
Yeah, I mean, when it's all said and done, Dillon Brooks is Dillon Brooks when it's all said and done. Like, I mean, what makes Dillon Brooks helpful and guys like Dillon Brooks, it depends who he's playing with. Right?
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of the Fred factor, to be honest.
Well,
I'm more focused on Jalen Green because I think he really worked hard this summer and stuff like that.
Jalen Green is fine in this case from that standpoint. He will show growth in this case here, but the jump from 22 to all the way 40.
Yeah, okay. All right. You sold me.
No, I'm just saying, no transcendent player on there. Unless Jalen Green now turns into a top 25 player.
I'm still going to punch the over, but I'm not going to put it at 40. Maybe 35 wins or 33 wins or something like that.
If you're down with Clutch City, I got no problem with it.
I'm just saying. In my future career, please hit me up. I would like to start a new division for your stuff, and
Right.
please, negotiate my contracts.
Right, right. Let me say, to take the shot line when it comes to Fred, I'm familiar with his game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll stick with my number under.
And no apology needed. Coach, your thoughts on the two teams?
Houston, right around that 32 wins, maybe 30. I just defensively, I know they might be a bit better with Brooks and Fred, but Jalen Green can't defend well. Barry Smith, he's good for maybe a block, but Şengün can't defend either. Jeff Green, he's still really athletic at his age, stuff like that. I suspect there's going to be growth and improvement, but Fred, with him being kind of hurt off and on, and like Beyond said, we are familiar with his game. I think he'll bring good leadership there.
Hey, Darko, you want to center to play the mid post? Get my man Şengün, boy. You see those passes right there? He had one the other night. My gosh. Eyes the back of his head, man. That's my man.
Oh yeah. So Houston, yeah, I'll have them basically 32 or under. Like I can see them winning that. Utah, yeah, about the same. I love the draft that they had, getting Hendricks, getting Keontae George and Sensabaugh. Picking up John Collins might be a decent pickup for them. Like they get a front court now with Markkanen, who averaged I think 26 a game last year. Another year Walker Kessler, big stando as a rookie, and you got John Collins. So from a front court perspective, they're gonna be pretty good. And now it's just building that guard depth with Sexton, THT, George. I have them at about 37 wins, but it's not going to shock me if they get to 40 to 42 if things click for them.
Yeah. So, you know what? I said what I said. I am still punching the over. You guys have both given me stuff to think about, including I keep forgetting that Şengün is their center, and he is. I know there's one person that I know that really likes him because he likens him to Sabonis, and I'm like, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
He got some skills on the offensive side.
He does. It's just the defensive side as well.
Still shadow in this case here, but like,
yeah. So I like look offensively, I like him, but just defensively, like they would be a good team for like a Clint Capella. Ironically, the return. But yeah, I mean, we will see what happens. I do expect them to be better. Yeah, you're right, but I still think that their ceiling could be up to if things click right. It's hard because they're in that division, and I looked at a couple other teams just ahead, and I'm like, so you know what? I'll lower it. I will match you, coach. 37. But that's still punching the over. The next two teams.
You mean Utah?
Oh, Houston.
No, this is Houston.
Okay, I have Houston under 32.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm still sticking with it. I am sticking with it, people. Make fun of me if you want. I'm sticking with it.
Bet on Fred, man. Here we
go. Bet on yourself.
Utah at 37, around 37.
Oh. Don't come to Basketball Rewind to bet, people. Do not take betting advice. In fact, the best betting advice that I give to people is don't bet. So with that being said, we have the San Antonio Spurs and who are in the same division, and that's why I'm rethinking because I was looking and I'm like the Spurs are there, and I'm like also like if I'm not mistaken, there's another team that's in there that I think is like actually secretly sneakily built up a decent team. So you know what? Forget my projections for the last ones. But what I will say is we're going to be talking about the Spurs and the Trailblazers, and I think the Trailblazers actually sneakily built a decent team by accident, and so that's why I have to say just scrap my Houston thing. So come on.
The man knew he was doing, man. I mean, I don't think he handled Lillard's situation well.
Oh, it was awful.
All said and done, he knew what he wanted.
Yes.
He knew what he wanted, and he got what he wanted, and then some, to be honest with you. So I give him the due.
He was a dog with a bone for sure. So let's talk about Portland Trailblazers first.
Portland.
Got Scoot, got Sharp, got Jeremy Grant. They got Aiton. They have a decent bench as well. They have Brogdon still. I'm sure that they'll play him until they can trade him, but they might be sneakily better than they may in fact even want to be.
What's their number? What's their number?
So their number is 27 and a half. Last year they ended up sitting a certain Lillard, and that earned them. That earned
Because outside
them
the grading game,
They had 33 wins last year.
33 wins. So yeah. Thoughts on the Trailblazers first?
Blazer Mania, man. You almost forgot about you, man. But Bill Simmons, he says those moms out there in Portland, man, they becoming ruthless at you, man. Be wary about that there in Kenya. Forget about them Blazers. That's a proud market. Bill Walton is
very interesting history in Portland. I'll just say that. But
Duckworth, what's up?
Yeah. Where do you are you? I would punch the over for them.
Me too.
Give me the under, man. Don't trust young teams. I love the talent. I think they'll be fine a year or so, but right now, I think they gel it all together and have a young point guard too, a young two guard, and there's just a lot of young stuff in there right now. Yeah, give me the under, and they still can't guard. They still can't guard anybody anyhow. So when it's all said and done, right? No. So yeah,
they have Robert Williams, but we'll see how his knees hold up.
True.
They get Thibault, he's a good defender, stuff like that. There's pieces there, but this team is going to be good in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will actually get on the court. Like Thibault's always one of those guys that's always in theory, but then when you put on the court, and it's like, yeah, okay, this is the reason why he's not on the court. Like supposedly he's supposed to be good defensively. I've never really been that impressed with the Thibault defense that's supposed to be there, and we know he stinks offensively. So I'm always wondering, like, why he's always this guy who says, "Oh, we got to trade for Thibault." It's like Thibault can barely play on his own team. What are we missing here, folks? I don't know. It was like Philly had a whole bunch of guys, like all of a sudden it was like the 86 Celtics on the bench over there. Like, I'd be like, come on.
he definitely improved when he got traded to the Trailblazers.
With guys like Paul Reed and stuff like that. Come on, man.
Yeah, and he had Dame, stretching the floor. He will not have that this year. What I will say is, 27 and a half. Yeah, you know what? I'll go 28 games. Why not?
Yeah, that's when I said I punched over. I mean like 28, 29 max for this team. But that's where they should be in their development. This team doesn't want to be like Utah and go win 38 games next year. They need another couple of picks. You've got Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp, 2 and 8, and I'll put Aiton in that. Like, if you could build a franchise from scratch with those 3, that's a pretty good foundation moving forward.
So, the next team. Oh wait, Beyond, did you go?
Yeah, man, I said under, man. Young teams.
Yeah, okay. You're just like next. The Spurs. 28 and a half.
Now we put the W up. Here we go.
Big Vic.
Yeah, man, Big Vic. What's the number again?
28 and a half.
Boy, man, they're thinking a lot about my man. Okay, 20 and a half. Man, I'm pushing the chips in, man. Give me the 20. I'm going over, man.
They were 22 wins last year, just so people know. Full disclosure.
The chips in, man. Big Vic, man. Man, that's must-see TV. Big Vic. Give me about 32 wins for San Antonio. Pop's back in the high life again, man. Here we go. Pop's got the good Pinot going, ready to go, man. Pop's right there, ready to drink a glass of wine, man. 33 wins for San Antonio.
Coach,
I get him at about that 28. I think it was 28 wins. I do like Wembanyama, Kelton Johnson, and Devin Vassell. That's a pretty good young 3 core that you have there. Moving forward, clearly, like this is a team that'll be good in a couple of years.
I'm moving my chips even further, man. I give him 38 to 39 wins.
38 to 39.
Here's why I'm
They're
saying
your
here.
Houston. They're your Houston.
Here's why I'm saying so, Coach. Here's why I'm saying so. If he's supposed to be as historically good as we think he should be, or at least they say he's supposed to be, right? Let's look at other historical generational type players that have come in. Let's go with the most recent one, LeBron, where Cleveland pretty much was a doormat. And it's almost what? He got them up to about 30 some odd wins after like being like something like in teens or something like that, or 20 wins. Let's go and let's move on down. And let's pick in this case here too. Who's there? San Antonio, Duncan, right? They're a playoff team the moment he showed back up in this case here. Pick another one in this case here. Shaquille O'Neal. Orlando was pretty much a doormat. Came in there in this case, they're winning 40-something games. If he's as good as these guys we're talking about, I even get the guys in this case like Magic or Bird. Yeah, I'm putting him up to high 30s, man, if he's that type of dude.
I like what you're saying because I think you're right. Like you should be putting him up with those guys because I think historically people have regarded him as the best prospect since LeBron and Kareem to come in the NBA, which I agree with 100%. I just worry about their team philosophy of load management, and they're going to baby him this year a little bit. Vassell has never been the most healthiest of players, and neither has Keldon Johnson. That's my only concern about them. Like.
Okay. So we know in this case, because of the rules, he has to play at least 65 games. He wants Rookie of the Year, right? So that's that he's got to play. So
yes.
Ain't no one managing that. Okay, now knowing Pop, he'll be slippery with it. And he'll play like 10 minutes and have a coffee break in this case and call it a day. In this case, I don't know how they can get around those situations. And
yeah, because you have to play a minimum amount of minutes in those games.
Yeah, what's the minutes? 15
20,
or 20? Okay, 20. So you probably play him like in this case the first half and call it a day. In this case, that's the case. Fair enough. There's gonna be nights like that, right? You know, and you probably end up with about 12 rebounds and probably about 18 points and call it a night in this case. But you know, when it's all said and done, in my mind, that in this case here, if he's the dude that people think he is, and my goodness, I was not sold. I said it straight. I was questioning it. I had the sickle above his head because I was like, really? You think you can be that good since LeBron? And even Summer League, it didn't look that promising. But boy, what I seen in preseason, oh, he made me a believer, man. I'm going there on Sundays at the pew, boy. I'm right there, boy. I'm reading the chapter and verse. I'm right there. I am there. I have opened up the book of Wemby. I'm right there, chapter.
You are a believer of Wemby. Believer. Yeah.
I'm there, boy.
The gospel Wemby. Here we go.
Gospel Wemby. You better believe it, Coach. He's boy. I've seen the
light. He is an alien, is what I will say. He's a 2K player. You can't even make him in 2K.
You can.
I've never seen someone that size move like that and improve that quickly since Summer League.
That's the part, yeah.
Like in Summer League, I was like, oh, he needs to get better footwork. He needs to do this and that. But I'm like, I can see it. But I'm like, he's not. But then it's like to see that improvement from hand to hand. Like, huh?
Well, it's like if Kevin Durant was 7'5".
Yeah,
that's what it's kind of looking like.
He did that crossover. I was like, ooh, like that's nice.
In 3 years, it might be like
Barnes that. Do that? Yeah, I'm just asking. Listen, I'll be nice like that.
Not touching that one.
I mean, the man's not making a guard in this case here in the preseason game at 7'4" or 7'5". Like it's like. Yeah, I mean, why watching against Golden State the other night? I'm sitting here, I'm listening to space, but I can't keep my eyes off the TV. Every time I turn on, like he's doing something else, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, yeah. But this dude right here, are you guys watching the game?
Yeah.
This game is must watch TV.
Yeah. No, man, if he's historically great, like all these other folks we talking about, you should expect a jump of like something like the 15 to 20 games. And I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go in, man. I think they got like 37, 38 games, man.
Did I give my take on there over?
I know, sure. Go ahead, man. I don't think you did, man.
Okay. I'm gonna punch the over. This is why I'm I'm rethinking the Houston because they're all these are all in the same
Don't
conference.
I take the L's, man.
But I'm still punching over on Houston. But I will say San Antonio 32 wins. I wouldn't go as high as you, mainly because again, LeBron played 79 games in his first year, and I don't see Wemby playing 79 games.
Fair enough. That is the counter, which is you and coach going there with that. But I also know how coaches think as well too, and if they got a chance to get the playing game, all of a
Yes.
sudden now everyone can play. All of a sudden, in this case here in the playing.
Well, what's interesting is Wemby from like I didn't expect his offense to be this far along, but I knew that his defense would be, and I think that he could, like, he's gonna break some records very quickly in terms of those blocks. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he averages 2.5 blocks a game.
Well, this is where it's interesting.
Easy.
That Raptors pick comes into play later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sorry, got to bring it up because it'll determine a lot.
I mean, they technically can't trade it until it conveys, so I'll say that.
They can do a lot with it.
Beyond what you said, though, if this team, because the Spurs have been, in the past, they love to load manage. They really have been trying too much the last couple of years. If they are committed to winning, that record is not out of the realm of possibility. What you said, that high 30s. I just worry that they're going to be a bit more committed to development than they are winning and being a bit patient with him. I hope I'm wrong because imagine the ratings for when he plays in the playing game in the West. Imagine if it's him and Zion, them, the Pelicans, what that would be like.
We also have the other countervailing history of San Antonio. They've done pretty well at number 1 overall picks. They seem to know what to do the next year after they get them.
That's true.
There's that too. If there's a commitment to winning this year, maybe more so than development, that's not out of the realm possibility.
Man, the old man only got so many years on that bench left, man.
Yeah, that's true.
He ain't trying to be hanging around here for like about a 6-year project at this point here, man.
No, no, it's gonna be very, very interesting in San Antonio. He
took all those L's for a reason the last couple of years, coach.
Yeah.
I'm just watching his highlights now from that Golden State game, and Wemby just blocks Andrew Wiggins, comes down, drains a 3, and you're just like, this guy is 7'5", and he's 18 years old, 19 years old, unbelievable.
The thing too is, man, which is going to be very interesting with how the Spurs culture is. My man got some swag to him. That ain't Spurs culture, okay?
Yeah. No, he's cocky.
My man waiting for the second guy to come to dunk it, okay?
Yeah, no, he is going to make timing of people's shots very difficult because when you think that normally when you have 2-3 steps on a dude, it ain't enough.
Right.
It ain't enough.
That arc's gonna be serious, man.
And now granted it is, it is preseason, but like I said, that 3-point shot has to come along. But so far in preseason, it has come along. That's the other thing. The phrase
was the immovable force in the
and an unstoppable object.
Unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
Yeah,
right. And essentially, what I'm talking about is the Curry jump shot versus the Wemby extension. 4 times a season this year, or 3, or oh my gosh!
They basically drafted like Inspector Gadget people.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun. I'm definitely going to be watching a lot more Spurs games. I will actually be having a Spurs over everyone guy on this channel. I just, we just have to schedule that to talk about Wemby ahead of the season, as well as OKC reporter ahead of their season, just to talk a little bit about their people. It may not come right before the season. It may come during the first little bit, but it will be coming people. So I'm just making a guess that we're going to probably not do what we were planning on doing, talking a little bit about the Raptors. Probably talk about that another day or at another time or on another episode because this one's already getting a little long. But people, stay tuned on Basketball Rewind. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, definitely give it a like. If you didn't, give it a comment. If you did like it, still give it a like and a comment, and subscribe if you aren't. So yeah, that's been it's been a long episode. It is a little bit late for us. We do love our basketball. We also like our sleep. So with that being said, it's been fun. Take care, everyone, and peace.